Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Let me ask you this. Have you ever found yourself listening to an argument or discussion or just opposing points of view, maybe even participating in this discussion, and you found yourself coming to the conclusion that both sides have good points, and maybe you pretty much land in one camp, but every time the opposing side speaks or makes their points, you stop and consider, they do have a valid point. Maybe you're not in the land of indecision, but you still scratch your head and wonder a little bit. So I wanted to make a longer video about this, but my girlfriend's cat is pretty terminally ill, so we had a long night. Anyhow, the subject I wanted to talk about a little bit, and there's some really good arguments on both sides, is the idea that in one camp, which is the camp that I tend to land in much more firmly, is the idea is that it's the job of the game master, whether you're the game master or not, and I'm going to get this quote wrong, to facilitate the ability of the players to have fun and to provide them with a dynamic but internally consistent game world to operate within. But you don't fulfill their need to have fun or to do great things. You don't do their work for them. The other camp, I suppose, would be that as a game master you make a dynamic world, in that it's dynamic not just because it's a real world, but because you're constantly gauging the needs and desires of your players. You don't shy from altering an encounter or a situation midstream, sometimes even telling your players that you're doing it, because you realize it's too tough, too easy, not cinematic enough, not exciting enough. You know, when your players come up with, say, a better solution to a mystery or something, sometimes you'll change it midstream, and the original idea you had, you'll chuck out because your idea is better. The world is much more dynamic in terms of not having consistency and existing to serve the players. You as a game master are, wanting to have your players to have fun, and so it's your job to make sure they do. I think one side, the original side, would advocate in terms of like having the pre-game interview where everybody kind of lays their cards on the table and says, this is what I like or don't like or want or don't want. And while the second camp wouldn't necessarily say, no, we're not going to do that, would also say it's the job of the game master to read between the lines and maybe the things that your players aren't saying, and if they look like they're not having fun, figure out what you need to do to make them have fun. So, what are your thoughts on this? I'd like to make a much longer foray down that rabbit hole, but I think I've kind of nailed the two camps that I wanted to take a better look at, because they both have their points. But I don't know if this video does.